So go ahead, John.
Thank you, Mr. Chairman. My name is John Charles, representing Cascade Policy Institute. Representing some 800 members. They're not standing behind me. You can just imagine that they are. Pretty mean president. So there are some good elements to this budget that I'll just call out briefly. Reducing funding to the streetcar, if that's actually happening, I certainly support that. And elimination of the 3-rail zone. The first time I ever testified at a TriMet hearing in the fall of 1980, I urged abolition of the railless square. So it's only taken 32 years, but I'm glad to see that this will finally happen before I retire. I think it's about time rail riders put some skin in the game and start to pay up. Notwithstanding those positive features, I think there are some issues that need addressed. First is, I guess I don't quite understand why you keep assuming that you're going to win the ATU arbitration. And I won't read my testimony, but I put in front of you 4 different times in the last year where you've been stating we assume that this is going to happen. That's a $5 million assumption, and maybe you have inside knowledge that I don't have, but I don't know why you assume that. And if I were budgeting my organization that way, I would assume we're not going to get the $5 million. That has a big impact. And you might want to talk about what Plan B is if that doesn't happen, because you keep saying it. Every time I've read this the last year, I keep saying, why? It's never explained why. So I think it's worth a conversation before you pass this on. Second is the budget continues this fantasy that your never-ending rail expansion programs have no effect on the general fund. Attached is testimony I presented to the Oregon Transportation Commission a year ago when TriMet went desperate to close the budget gap on Portland-Milwaukee Light Rail and asked for $13 million of flex funds, the most scarce commodity around. Flexible funding can be used for anything. And you agreed right there that you would refrain from requesting capital bus program funds for bus purchases for the next 3 biennia. 6 years. That's what you said. Give us the money for light rail expansion and we'll go away for 6 years. You totally sold out your bus drivers. And this is only 3 months after you had a bond measure on in November of 2010 to say we need $125 million because our buses are so old. Look, there is a trade-off. You can't maximize all objectives simultaneously. You're choosing the glamour of the ribbon cutting for rail, and there is an effect on the general fund. So what I'd like to see you do is at least acknowledge that there are trade-offs and stop saying that you can do all these things at once. To me, there's a simple solution. Stop with the CRC, stop with the Bar Boulevard expansion, and frankly, stop with the next $400 million plus you're going to spend next year on a slow train to some obscure place south of Milwaukee that no one cares about. My final point is, or the third point is that I think, if I'm reading it correctly, you're going to make another $865,000 deposit into the OPEB trust fund, which is a big improvement over the $410,000. But in the last audit, the auditors said your annual required contribution for this would be $77.7 million. So to me, this just again defers the day of reckoning for OPEB. You're projecting to the public, 99% of whom will never read this budget, that all is well when you move a balanced budget forward. But the balanced budget is an artifact of your assumptions. And the assumptions that this can go on, that you can keep moving debt downstream, means you're doing to your successors what the TriMet board did to you in the last 15 years when they kept approving contracts for the ATU that obviously were not sustainable. I think it's time to take a more realistic view of that. And finally, the attached chart, pink chart, shows trends updated that your revenue is skyrocketing, has been ever since you got the payroll tax rate increase the baseline year back in 2003, which went into effect in 2005, and your service vehicle hours are down 14%. That's a disgrace. I think you need to stop accepting excuses. You can't have revenue go up and service go down and down. At what point do you say this isn't working? I think it's time to have a serious conversation about a strategy in which your management team seems to be doubling down on a strategy that's not isn't working. You need to take control. Thank you.